What is going on, you guys? My name is Rayge and we are back today with a very exciting video in regards to my ultimate store buying guide. So this is the first time I've made a video like this because going through the game now and seeing how hard it's been for newer players as well as those transitioning from mid to end game, there's just an abundance of information that's actually in the store. So I wanted to put this together so that way you guys not only had a cheat sheet, but as well ensure that you're maximizing and minimizing your resources in terms of using it, so that way you are having effective growth with resource efficiency as you progress. So this version is going to be specifically focused on Teal and Orange gear, guys. So if you've been wondering which ones are the recommendations to purchase, this is the guide for you. But as well, those of you watching that did find value, let me know if you want me to make one for purple and blue gear as well. Obviously they're not as focused as Teal and Orange, just because this is typically where a lot of the game content opens, with a lot of characters being needed for this gear progression. So having said that, guys, what is the ultimate store guide? I'm gonna show you right here quickly. So in your supply store, when you're going through, we know that we have different stages. Right now, we have the TVA gift shop. Keep in mind, this is an event-based one, but as you navigate from left to right, we have the gold store, we have Blitz, Raid, Arena, War, Crucible, and then finally it's followed by the promotion, ISO 8, Ultimates, and then costume. So for the purpose of this guide, we are actually focusing on the ones that are highlighted in yellow and green, and that's because the gold, Blitz, Raid, Arena, War, and Crucible give us some really unique gear and as well as materials. But as well, like I said, this one's gonna be focused more specifically actually on the orange and teal gear. Understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each is going to allow you to not just maximize your efficiency in the game, but as well save your resources. That way you're not blowing gold and materials when you don't need to, and knowing which ones you shouldn't be going for just because mathematically it is actually bad for your account, and over time that's going to use up more. So in case you've been making these mistakes, it was super interesting because when I was making this guide as well, I realized I was doing things I should not have been. But again, no one really takes the time to actually analyze and go into the details of what is good or bad, and comparing apples to apples, especially when we know that some of these resources are available through the different stores, and it's just a matter of recognizing what is good and what is bad and things to avoid. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys today. Lastly, by doing so, we're going to be streamlining how we play the game. By doing so, that's going to maximize our efficiency and push for more growth, especially if you're trying to save your resources at the same time and try and grow your roster in this competitive dynamic with the changing meta. So having said that, guys, how did this information come about? Let me give you a quick sneak peek here of the work that's been done. So this is not something you need to memorize by any means, but I'm just trying to show you my logic here. So this is the math and analysis that went through analyzing not just the different aspects of the teal gear and orange gear, but as you can see from left to right, it is separated by the supply store, the war store, Cosmic Crucible, Raids, and Blitz. So high level, guys, everything you need to know is that everything in green is essentially what is a good action in the game in terms of you getting value. So for example, if we focus on the first row here for the teal uniques, you can see you can buy and purchase teal unique gear. That's available through the supply store for 125k gold or 1950 war credits, or the cost of 2350 Cosmic Crucible credits. So the reason the 125k gold is highlighted in green is because efficiency wise, it is actually the best bang for buck that you're getting. We did a couple things actually to take a look at this so that we could compare apples to apples. So you can see at the very bottom there, we did even a teal basic conversion of the catalyst. So you can see when you're purchasing a teal basic catalyst for one piece, that's going to cost 60k gold, which is equivalent to 375 war credits, which is equivalent to 180 Cosmic Crucible credits, equivalent to 1200 Ray credits, or 300 Blitz credits. So by doing that kind of work and analysis, we were able to actually take a look at what was good and what was bad. Essentially, everything green is a good action. So, I know this is a lot of information, but don't worry, we're going to concise this. I'm just trying to show you the logic here of how this was developed. But as you can see, some good things to do then would be, if you're using the supply store with gold, typically buying teal unique gear with 125k is more efficient, and it costs less resources than 1950 war credits and 2350. Buying the gear 17 mini uniques for 2 pieces at 300k gold is also better than utilizing 3900 Cosmic Crucible credits. So there are things that you should definitely avoid, and that is actually the red. So anything in red is basically something that you're actually getting diminished, not just diminishing returns, but it grows in diminishing returns, especially over time. So something you should never do, for example, then is if you're looking at the war store, so that's the second column to the right, you should never be buying the Teal Origin gear 3 pieces at 1050 war credits, just because you know, there's other aspects to get it, right? We can get it from Cosmic Crucible by, you know, getting 10 pieces for 1450, or you can actually get 10 pieces in the raid store for 14,000 raid credits there. So I mean, because the raid credits is in green for the Origin gear, that's actually the best bang for buck, and that's why it's highlighted in green. The tan color yellow is basically, it's not terrible, but it's also not best bang for buck. So that's why some of these areas here do have that slight tan, because it's in between. It's not great or exceptional, but if you do it, it's not going to hurt you, as you are at least taking advantage of an opportunity. And then lastly, anything that's kind of left in white is just not good or bad. It's just neutral. So in other words, you know, you can choose to do it if you want, but it's basically, you know, flat. You're not getting much value out of it. So math aside, guys, this is the analysis that went through it. Now we can talk about the infographic that I put together based on this information. And keep in mind, guys, if you see anything that I messed up or anything that's missing here, please let me know, and I can make a quick revision and obviously redo the video. Obviously, I get that revision out. But I mean, this is kind of what I had gone through in terms of the refreshes and taking a look at all the gears. And it can be super confusing because, especially if the Teal gear having 16 minis, 17s, and 18s, as well as the unique, you got to be careful that we know which one we're talking about, right? So I do have pictures later on. Same with the Origin gear. We have the 15 minis, the 14, and Origin gear. So if you guys aren't familiar with those, don't worry. That's why I put the gold cost there, so that way you know exactly what I'm talking about if you're going through the store and navigating. But again, this is going to take some time to digest. I do have some pictures to hopefully help you guys out here. So now that leads me here to the infographic that it's taken time to actually put together in terms of what you should or shouldn't do. So if there's anything you guys gotta do, I would save a copy of this. I'm gonna make sure I actually link a copy in my description below, so that way you can save and distribute it to Alliance members and so forth. But this is basically the store cheat sheet for both the Teal gear and an Orange gear for all the pieces across, as well as a picture to kind of demonstrate what exactly I'm talking about. So for example, guys, it's really big in terms of getting this information, because now we have some really solid findings of basically the do's and don'ts of each. So let's you know what, let's dissect Teal gear first, and then we'll move over to Orange, so that way we can have a pretty good discussion and analysis here. So for Teal gear specifically, guys, look at the versatility of this. If you're focused specifically on gold, in the supply store using gold, it's actually one of the best ways to actually get the uniques for Teal gear. Gear 18, Gear 17, and Gear 16 mini uniques. The don'ts is, do not, by any means, do not ever use gold for other catalysts as well as the basic, because it's the worst value, and honestly, it's going to do you more harm than good. So if you ever have spare gold and you need to use it, do not ever use that on the actual catalyst. It's terrible value. You can see there, then follow, we got the Blitz door. Amazing for actually the basic Teal catalyst. So that's actually one I would urge you guys to utilize, especially since you can see with the Blitz store, it doesn't really do anything else besides character shards, and obviously the only Teal gear there being the basic catalyst. We got to take advantage of that. Raid store is actually the MVP for the Teal gear. So I don't know if you guys knew that. And again, these are findings that I'm getting as I'm doing this video and making the content here, because, you know, I also learned from doing the analysis too that the raid store is actually huge, giving huge value for Teal Origin gear, other catalysts, and basic catalysts. So I mean, if you guys are finding that you are nearing that point where you're seeing some lack of catalysts, the raid store and the Blitz store seem to be really good go-to areas. Just do not use gold. Like I said, the big X's is what indicates that. So we then have the war store here, actually with a couple things, right? So by any means, do not ever use the war store to purchase Origin gear as well as the basic catalyst. However, it's actually a pretty good component randomly for the Gear Tier 16 mini unique, so it's good value there. And the reason why there's a white check mark is because that's basically indicative of the previous chart that I showed earlier with the tan color. The white check mark, like I said, it's not bad, it's not great, but if you actually need it to supplement, obviously at the end of the day, it's going to help out. So if you guys needed some extra Teal gear uniques, yes, the war store is an opportunity to do that. Same with Cosmic Crucible. However, value wise, it's the gold piece that actually gives you the best bang for buck. last but not least, we can see that everything is stacked actually with campaign farming. So you can see that's the very bottom there. It wasn't in my table before, but we got to talk about the importance of campaign farming, because you can see it just opens up a huge wide variety of opportunities to farm Teal gear now that they've added the hard chapter campaigns, especially through heroes, villains, and Nexus. This is a huge component to get those resources. Obviously, if you don't want to be using, you know, gold, you don't want to be using your raid or blitz credits, you know, that's going to be the best free to play way. So high level, guys, what are the findings? Gold is king. You know, campaigns is important if you want to farm up the Teal gear over time. That's all going to add up. Raid is the MVP for Teal, like I said, especially the common stuff being the Origin and the Catalyst. And last but not least, use the war credits in Crucible with caution. As you can see, there's not really anything that Cosmic Crucible specifically shines at. Mind you, they have those elite credits that you can utilize to buy shards, but that has nothing to do with the actual purchasing of materials. So having said that, that means Cosmic Crucible overall is just a top up area. Feel free to use that where you need to, but just make sure you guys are not buying the gear tier 16s, because it's going to be the worst value in terms of how you utilize it. That said, guys, that concludes Teal gear. Orange is up next. So orange gear is less complex because there's actually less materials involved here. As you can see, the uniques, gear tier 15, 14, origin, other, and then lastly basic. So very similar. It's just the Teal actually has another component with it being gear tier 18. As you can see here with the gold actually takes a huge dip. So unlike the Teal counterpart, gold is actually not a good way to utilize to buy the uniques, gear tier 15, 14. The only thing that's actually worth value is the origin gear. So if you guys are running low on that, that's pretty much the only thing. So in other words, if you guys need orange gear specifically to build up your characters, the supply store using gold is probably not the best way to utilize it unless it's origin. Next up, we got Blitz again. So the Blitz store just seems to be that huge benefactor here of the basic catalyst. So if there's a memorizer, just remember B for basic, because or Blitz for basic, because of the fact that they just give you really, really good value. So I'm glad they added that revision actually, you know, a couple of weeks back earlier this year. So I mean, that's huge that, you know, that's actually adding up for our resource building over time as well. The raid store does take a dip as well with the orange gear. Unfortunately, it looks like the really best bang for buck is actually the uniques for orange. So that's good. Something to keep an eye out for when you're refreshing. Other than that, other and basic catalysts are neutral. They're okay if you do have them available. I'd actually urge you guys to save that actually for Teal gear as opposed to orange. And we know with orange gear, there's a lot more orbs available anyways to get orange gear. War store is a tad better for the orange gear. As you can see, still using that opportunity to actually purchase the uniques in gear tier 15, but really where it shines is getting the gear tier 14 and as well as other catalysts. So if you guys want to build that up, that would be a place to start with the war store. And kind of similar with how Teal was, Cosmic Crucible just not really doing a good job anywhere here. So you can see the big no-nos is do not use it for gear tier 15 or basic catalysts. But I mean, if you wanted to top up on some uniques and you wanted to add them up so that way they are getting to gear tier 15, 14, 13, so forth with the uniques, it's a good place to actually supplement that. So either way, it's a resource we got to use, right? So unless you want to hoard it and save it for future use, that's also a possibility, of course. And as well, the origin gear is decent too. Lastly, we see this as well in Teal and with orange gear. Campaign is just a huge area that you can be farming all this gear. So if you guys are planning on farming both, obviously campaigns is doing the best job at the end of the day. So you're getting training mats, you're getting a lot of these materials, which is really typical what we would expect, especially when they expect players to be building up the roster over time with how many teams are coming out. So there you guys have it. I'm gonna make sure I put this in the link in the description below so that way you guys have it for reference. But again, I would take some time to just memorize some key areas. Maybe if you just want to, for example, you needed more basic catalysts for just Teal. Well, now we know with Blitz Store and Raid Store, that's going to be your go-to area, as well as obviously planning to farm which campaign nodes. Generally, they have some pretty generous amounts there too. But at the end of the day, if you're not using your Blitz credits and Raid credits because you've maxed out all your characters, great spot to use them. So hopefully this helps you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You know, I hope this is allowing you guys to at least farm and be able to know officially now at the end of the day what is worth it, what's the priorities when you're going through it. Best of luck with your guys' progression and farming. Thank you as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.